affirm.
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I am the That is my signature.
And the statement or affidavit from pages 1 to 6 with 7 to 9, is that your affidavit? Are you satisfied that its contents are true and correct?
That's correct.
Chair, for the record, this affidavit remains in bundle T, marked T6. Exhibit T, T6.
Oh, yes, I've got it.
When did you start your career in journalism?
Chair, I started my career in journalism in 2003 as a crime reporter for Beeld newspaper in Johannesburg.
And since then, have you occupied positions in the journalist profession?
That is correct.
Amongst those, you mentioned them in paragraph 4.
Chair, before I became editor of News 24, I was also an assistant editor of City Press newspaper. I was also the editor-in-chief of Beeld newspaper, as well as the editor of Netwerk 24, which is the Afrikaans news website.
Knowledge.
That is correct, Chair. I was working at Beeld newspaper at the time, and together with my colleague Karine du Plessis, who was working for the Burger newspaper at the time, that is a sister newspaper of Beeld, we started investigating the Bosasa group of companies after numerous allegations were leveled at the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee of Correctional Services about this company that had suddenly received an avalanche of tenders from the Correctional Services Department.
And then between mid-2007 and September 2010, did your investigative work continue?
Correct, Chair. I was then employed by the Mail and Guardian.
These threats, what was your conclusion?
Chair, there were 2 episodes of threats which we will go into detail now, but the only purpose I could adduce at the time and still believe is to stop me writing about Bosasa.
Right, and you say then in paragraph 9 that you will refer to 2 groups or episodes of threats. If we can go for a moment to paragraph 11 to provide some background to these 2 episodes. In January 2009, did you have occasion to publish a particular article or series of articles in regard to Bosasa?
Yes, Chair. I was privileged to have been leaked a series of emails from within the Bosasa group in the previous year, and had worked for months through these emails to find evidence of wrongdoing that I could publish. I finally, in January 2009, whilst being employed as an investigative journalist by the Mail and Guardian, published an article that was earlier referred to in this commission. It was headlined, "Here's the Proof, Minister," after an advertisement was placed in Sunday newspapers by the
Okay, well, I guess I
Yes,
may
we may
proceed.
continue.
Okay, yeah.
You say that the article was published under the headline, "Here's the Proof, Minister."
That's correct, Chair. I managed to conclude my investigation at the time when the department spent a lot of money on advertising, claiming that they are fighting corruption in the department. We could prove the contrary. And I then proceeded to publish evidence from this email, a tranche of email that I received, showing inter alia that the company was in fact involved in writing the tender specifications of tenders they were later awarded by the Department of Correctional Services.
We've heard the phrase metadata often. Please just explain what that term means and how that concept is relevant to these articles.
Chair, after being leaked the tranche of emails by my source, during my employment at Beeld and at the Mail and Guardian, involved the services of forensic experts to firstly verify the legitimacy of the emails, to confirm that they were indeed from Bosasa's computers, and secondly, confirm or verify the date stamps of these emails and leaked documents. Obviously, the timeline is of utter importance when you try to prove that a tender document was either in their possession or created by them before the tender was advertised. So that information, the creator of the document, the name of the creator of the document, the date stamps, etc., are all referred to as metadata.
And did the metadata confirm the veracity of the information you published?
That's correct.
It's a long article. It's been dealt with in detail before this commission, and it's a matter of record, so we needn't go there for the moment, save to say in summary perhaps, to what extent did that article implicate Bosasa in wrongdoing?
Chair, it was definitely one of, in the journalistic profession, we often refer to a smoking gun, that we look for a smoking gun. We don't often find smoking guns. It's often a matter of circumstantial evidence of bits of pieces of information from sources and documents. But this was a smoking gun. This was real proof of the company's, the level of access, and I guess what we call now state capture of Bosasa, of that specific State Department.
If we can go back then to the outcome or consequences of the publication of this article. Subsequent to the publication of the article in January 2009, you refer to threats. Would you detail those? You begin in paragraph 10, and I just need to confirm the incidents you refer to in paragraph 10, did those occur subsequent to the publication of the January 2009 article?
Chair, it's a long time ago, but that is my best recollection, that that article specifically caused discomfort and anger at the Bosasa group, and that both these episodes followed after that publication. Okay. Definitely while I was employed by the Mail and Guardian.
Right. You refer to the first group of threats in paragraph 10. Would you tell the Chair, please, what occurred?
Chair, there was a period during that time when I started receiving calls on my cellular phone. These calls, there was a lot of these calls. They came during the day and night, early hours of the morning. Sometimes the calls came from a number that was visible on my phone. I remember still saving these numbers after the calls, using terms like Bosasa Angry 1, Bosasa Angry 2. And there were also unknown numbers, so I couldn't see the number of the caller, and then also some landlines. The purpose of these calls, or the message of these calls, were always a person claiming that they are a Bosasa employee, and then saying to me that I, Adrian, are threatening their jobs, that I will cause them to lose their jobs, that I must stop my writing, I must stop my reportage on Bosasa, and there were also some of the callers, I remember quite vividly, accusing me of racism, that I was only doing these articles because I'm white and I'm a racist. There were a number of these calls, and it was definitely during a specific period. I clearly remember that I blocked some of these numbers, obviously not to receive the calls from them again. It was obviously upsetting and perturbing receiving these calls late at night or in the early hours of the morning. Also profanities used during some of these calls. If I may say, Chair, some of the calls, for example, said, I must stop my shit. I must stop writing shit about Bosasa. And so it was really a kind of aggressive tone from the callers that made it very clear that I am endangering their livelihoods and should stop this nonsense.
And what was your reaction when receiving these calls? And I refer specifically to your reaction to the content of the calls.
Chair, I think if you become a journalist, it comes with the territory that you will have to grow thick skin. I had a thinner skin then. It was 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. But it was upsetting. I tried to explain to these callers what the purpose of a journalist is in society and what I was trying to do with my investigations into corruption, that ultimately the poor of the country are the main victims of corruption, specifically by this company then. But it was upsetting. It made me feel threatened. I didn't know. I knew that this company obviously had lots of tenders in correctional services and other security areas, so I didn't know to what extent they would actually go to threaten me. It was upsetting. It was perturbing to hear these calls.
Did you receive, and we're not asking you to disclose your sources, but did you receive any information from your sources in regard to how your number had been distributed?
Yes, Chair. I, at that stage, had cultivated a number of sources within the Bosasa group. I asked a specific source about these calls, and it was confirmed to me that my cell phone number had been distributed in the group to employees, and that employees were tasked to call me and threaten me. And the name of one specific director was named.
Now, you've explained to the legal team why you don't wish to mention the name of the director. It's a decision ultimately that the chair will make, whether to ask you or not. But would you give your reasons, please?
Chair, in the journalistic information gathering process, you sometimes receive information, but I believe, and it's common practice, that you have to corroborate every piece of information with either a second source or a piece of documentary evidence. I had not yet done that. I don't have corroboration for what my one source told me, who the director was that instructed, that was specifically central to distributing my cell phone number, and that's why I wouldn't be comfortable in disclosing it.
It may be the subject of further investigation, and perhaps preferable to look for corroboration for the witnesses' evidence. Thank you, Chair. The identifiable numbers for this first group of telephone calls, did you save them?
Chair, those numbers that I could see on my phone, I did save them. I checked up, and I saved them with names like Bosasa Angry 1, Bosasa Angry 2, just to identify them for myself.
And I understand that you still have these numbers and you are willing to assist the investigators in this regard.
That's correct, Chair.
In paragraph 17 of your affidavit, Mr. Basson, you deal with what you refer to as the second episode. Please tell the Chair about that second episode.
Chair, in February 2009, she's now my wife, she was then, I think, my girlfriend, and myself were on holiday, and I remember us driving at night when I received a phone call from a visible number, but it wasn't a number that I had saved on my phone. The person on the other side of the line was a woman who didn't introduce herself by name, but said that she was a colleague or somehow involved in the media, and that she wanted to warn me about my investigations into Bosasa. I was driving and I had my phone on speakerphone, and she then proceeded to attempt to convince me that she's helping me by saying things like, it's very dangerous what she's doing, what I'm doing. There's a much bigger story behind the Bosasa investigation. And then she interrupted herself continuously by saying to me, I just need to make sure that I'm talking to the right person, and I just need to make sure that I can trust you. Are you Adrian Basson with ID number? Do you live at this address? Are these your friends? And are these your family members? And she proceeded to read a quite accurate list of names of friends and family members. Do your friends and your family members, do they do these professions? Are they lawyers? Are they engineers, etc.? Chair, she also, it was clear to me at that point of our conversation that she was reading from some kind of what I would refer as an intelligence document, that some intelligence was done on me, and that the real purpose of the call was not to help me, but to scare me. She proceeded to tell me how dangerous Bosasa was, how scared I must be, that I'm very brave for a young man, was some of her quotes. Some of the other personal information, Chair, that I can remember she disclosed to me was my place of birth, for example, continuously saying, are you sure you were born here in this town? She also had study records of mine, of my tertiary studies, where I studied, what I studied. And it was clear to me that this information was obtained through some kind of intelligence operation. I kept her talking. It was interesting to hear what she had to say. But after the telephone call of about 18 to 19 minutes, I said to her, look, I will phone you when I get back to Johannesburg, where I was living at the time, and try and set up a meeting. Again, Chair, I was perturbed by the call. The fact that someone knew all this personal information about me, knew about my family members, where I stayed, where they stayed, what I studied, where I was born, what my ID number was. I then, on advice of my clever wife, went home and put in the cell phone number from which she called just into a Google search. So I just literally went onto Google and typed in the number.
Before you go there, just two brief questions, if I may. You know best of the context of the call, its content. What did you conclude about the purpose of the call?
Chair, my conclusion was that this was a Bosasa operation to intimidate and scare me.
And were you warned not to speak to anybody about the conversation? Indeed,
Chair. She warned me with words like, I will kill you if you tell anyone about our conversation. Now, if I speak to, it's not the type of language I would use, but I know that people sometimes use that phrase jokingly. It was not jokingly at all. It was in a context of a much larger, longer conversation, very ominous type of language, even the tone of her voice, very hush, trying to supposedly help me.
All right. Then you say that you conducted a Google search?
Yes, Chair, and to my surprise, I quickly found out the identity of the caller, someone by the name of Benedicta Dube. She was by then a public relations consultant for a company called Igagu Media, which I think I referred to in my affidavit. I didn't know Ms. Dube. I think I may have heard of her by then, but I quickly established that she was, in fact, a journalist. She used to work for reputable publications like the Financial Mail and at ETV before, but that she was now in public relations.
And when you say now, you mean at the time of the call in January 2009?
Correct, Chair.
Right. There has been evidence of this person receiving instructions from BOSASA Chair, and that will be dealt with later in submissions before you. Did you receive further information? And Chair, this information is hearsay, but it does corroborate evidence already given.
Okay.
So just tell the Chair of your conclusion in relation to the telephone call and its purpose, and what you subsequently learnt.
Chair, as I mentioned earlier, I had by then a range of sources inside the BOSASA group, and one of my sources at the time told me, when I told the source about Ms. Benedicta Dube, confirmed to me that she was indeed on the company's payroll and had been consulted on me.
Right. If you would go to page 7, after the green divider, Chair, of the affidavit and annexures.
Yes.
Exhibit T6. You will see there an article under the heading, "Very Brave for a Young Man." What was the reason for this article, and when did it happen? And to which incident does it relate?
Chair, at the time there were quite a number of cases in South Africa where journalists were being targeted by either rogue private intelligence services or rogue state intelligence operatives. I was working at the Mail and Guardian at the time, and we then published a series called Spy Nation, which dealt with all these occurrences where journalists were being spied on. The call by Benedicta Dube that I just relied to, Chair, was the subject of this article that I published in the Mail and Guardian on the 22nd of May 2009.
On page 9, that's the third page of the article reads, in reference to you, "I'm convinced her motives were never to caution, but rather to intimidate. The Mail and Guardian's lawyer wrote to BOSASA and Igago Media, where Dube is Group Executive Media and Publishing, on May 6, demanding an immediate return of all my personal information in their possession. BOSASA's lawyer denied the company had acted in an unlawful manner as alleged or at all, and said Dube's information falls within the public domain. Igago Media did not respond. Dube claims she doesn't recall our conversation and that she doesn't work for Igago anymore. She accused the Mail and Guardian of blackmail journalism." That was the conclusion of that episode, at least as far as that article is concerned. Am I correct?
That's correct, Chair.
Right. The information that was related to you over that 17-minute period of the telephone call you've referred to, did that information all fall within the public domain?
No, Chair. I, as an investigative journalist myself, we make use of a plethora of public sources to find information for our own investigations, and the detail of the information she had, for example, the addresses of where I've lived or the occupations and names of my friends and family, that's not something you can Google.
Just one more matter, please, Mr. Basson. A video clip was played before the chair of the commission during the evidence of Mr. Agrizzi. You are aware of that clip?
I am.
The soundtrack, if one listens carefully, mentions a person called Adrian, and as the legal team recalls, there is reference there to Adrian having visited Angelo Agrisi with his, that is Adrian's family. Would you like to comment on the truth of that allegation?
Chair, I had heard the clip a few months ago and was very upset when I heard it because it's completely false. I have never taken my children on work meetings and will never do. In fact, at the time, I only had one baby child. Chair, I did have one meeting with Mr. Agrisi at his house after hearing that he had turned on Bosasa and was now going to spill the beans. That is obviously news that makes journalists happy because we always want more information. And I made an appointment to see him at his house, had a meeting. I went there on my own. I had a meeting with him on my own where I attempted to extract information from Mr. Agrisi for purposes of further investigating Bosasa.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Besson.
Thank you, Mr. Person. He can be released for now, or he might come back later, or just released.
Well, he may be asked to come back later.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Person. You are excused for now, and if you are needed, we will ask you to come back.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. You are excused.
The next witness is Mr. Gregory John Lawrence. He's just being called from the waiting area.
Okay. Thank you. And his affidavit.
His statement, his affidavit, together with annexures, is, I stress, Chair, with apologies, Exhibit U. It's incorrectly marked Volume U. That will be dealt with.
Well, I thought also there was enough space for it and the annexures in this one, so we might not unnecessarily increase the number of liver arch files.
Yes, Chair, it was a judgment call made. We didn't quite know the volume at the stage we decided to separate the bundles, but you're correct, Chair, it could have gone into, and perhaps we can still do that, Chair.
Yes, maybe we should still do that, and therefore you might deal with it on the basis that it's part of Exhibit T.
So, Chair, this will then be a little out of sequence, but it will be Exhibit T9.
T9.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
And then the references to exhibits will have to be amended accordingly, but that will be done and placed in the file, and I'll try to refer to the corrected number on the transcript.
Okay, thank you. You may administer the oath of affirmation.
Please state your full name for the record.
Gregory John Lawrence.
Do you have any objections to taking the prescribed oath?
No.
Do you consider the prescribed oath binding on your conscience?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? If you do, please raise your right hand and say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lawrence, the bundle before you we will refer to as bundle T9. Would you go please to page 9 of T9?
Yeah,
Whose signature is that above the words G.J. Lawrence?
that's mine.
The document from page 1 to 9, whose affidavit is that?
Mine?
Are you satisfied that the contents are true and correct?
Yes.
Are you aware, Mr. Lawrence, that some, at least, of the contents may implicate you in improper or even unlawful activities?
Yes.
Nevertheless, do you give your evidence freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
And have you been offered any incentive or
No.
reward?
No.
You are currently the managing director of a business called AfriTrade Distributors.
Yes.
In 1993, did you begin employment with or under a person by the name of Greg Lacan Allen?
Yes.
That's LACON-ALLIN.
Yes.
What business was he conducting at the time?
Catering.
And the name of the business?
At the time was Grantham's Integrated Food Services.
Grantham's, Granthams.
Yes.
And to what post were you appointed?
As a catering manager
Where?
at Impala Platinum Mines.
In 1996, did you place an advertisement in the media for the employment of an assistant catering manager at Impala Platinum Mines?
Yes.
Who applied for the job and who was appointed?
Angelo Agrisi.
Then you speak in paragraph 4 of a fallout with Mr. Agrisi. It's clear from your evidence that there's no love lost between yourself and Mr. Agrisi.
Not at all.
But as I understand it, and we needn't go into too much detail, you say that Mr. Agrisi set you up by informing your superiors that you were inflating prices and overcharging clients.
That's my belief, yes.
Were you subjected to a disciplinary inquiry?
Yes.
Was it an internal disciplinary
Yes.
inquiry? How long did that inquiry last?
If I remember correctly, a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Was documentary evidence led at that inquiry?
I can't remember. It was such a long time ago.
And what was the outcome of the inquiry?
I was dismissed.
In 2003, did you commence employment with a company supplying meat products to the mining industry?
Yes, I did.
And in about 2004, did you then go into the business of supplying food products into Africa?
Yes, I did.
And were you in fact a 25% shareholder in a company by the name of Intrepid Foods Pty Limited?
Yes.
Right. In paragraph 6, you go into some detail in regard to your employment background. It's not necessary to detail that for the purposes of your evidence, your oral evidence at least. It's there on the record.
Sure.
But you became experienced in 2 spheres as a result of your work experience from 2004 onwards.
Yeah.
In what fields did you gain experience?
Well, the supplying into the SADC countries in Africa.
Supplying what?
Food products being maize, long life milk, oil.
Right. So you were involved in the export market
Yes.
in relation to foodstuffs.
Yes.
Any other aspect of the export market in which you became involved and experienced?
Yes, into alcohol.
And is it the same business, the export of alcohol
Yes.
to foreign countries
Yes,
in the
it is.
Southern African region?
Yes.
Did you join Mr. Greg Lakin Allen's company subsequent to 2004?
Yes.
Just want to check, because in paragraph 2 you say you started working for a person by the name of Greg Lakin Allen in about 1993. Was that in a different capacity in a different company?
Yes, it was Grantham's Integrated Food Services first, and then into...
Right. The company that you joined after 2004, what was its name?
Equal Trade 4.
Equal Trade 4, the Figure 4 Pty Limited.
Yes.
Where was that company based?
In Natal.
But where did you work yourself?
I work from my house. I've got an office at my place.
And what were your duties?
To continue looking after the clientele that I brought, to supply alcohol and other food stuff, as I was doing prior to joining up with Greg in that period.
Right. Now, your clients, perhaps I used the word export business incorrectly. Your clients who wished to purchase alcohol, were they in the Southern African region when they received their consignments, or did they come into South Africa for that purpose?
They would come in, and the transport would be arranged for them to take their product into Africa.
And how would payment be made?
Payment would be made in two ways, either in cash or an EFT.
And what was the approximate ratio or proportion
I would
of
say
cash payments as against EFT payments?
Cash payments around about 60% and EFT 40%.
And how much cash on average would you receive per consignment in relation to each order?
On alcohol, it would range from around about 1.1 million to 2.5 million.
Did the business do well?
Okay.
What was the consequence of any growth in the business?
Well, the company, Greg Lakin Allen's company, there was a cash problem in the company. We couldn't grow the company because of cash flow. Greg's other side of the business required a lot of money as well, where he was supplying into the mining industry, and Greg's company would only get paid 30 days after statement. So with my side of the business increasing on a monthly basis, we needed more cash in order for me to fulfill my clients' orders.
Well, you would have to pay upfront for the alcohol,
Yes.
which was to be purchased.
Yes.
And for that purpose, you say you needed cash.
Yeah.
And that cash had to be paid out before you received payment in.
Yes.
How did you address this problem in the business?
Well, I approached people I knew that could assist me for a fee to help me fund the business so that I could purchase alcohol. So for a small fee, I would loan money on a short-term basis and then pay them back their money plus the small fee that was negotiated. For
You
loaning.
would borrow money on a short-term basis.
Yes.
Now, if you received cash in the course of your business and you then deposited into the company's bank account, was there a fee chargeable?
Yes, there was 1.5, between 1.5 and 1.8%, if I remember correctly.
Cash deposit fee?
Fee, yes.
That the bank charged your business?
Yes.
And did you, in fact, in the beginning of the business's history, deposit the cash in the bank?
Yes, it was one of the biggest costs to our business.
One of the biggest costs was the cash deposit fee?
Yeah.
Was a new arrangement proposed to you around 2012?
Yes.
Who proposed the arrangement?
I was told by Greg Lake and Allen that instead of taking the money to the bank and being charged the fee that we were charged, that I could take the cash to Bosasa.
When you say Bosasa, could you be a bit more specific? Bosasa where?
Bosasa, their head office is in Krugersdorp, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure on the physical address.
Did he explain the background to this arrangement and its implications?
No, not really.
Well, did he say what you had to do?
All he said to me is once I'd got a certain amount of money from my clients to take it to Bosasa, and they would take it from us and we would be paid back so that I didn't have to go to the bank and deposit the money. For me, it was a cost saving to the alcohol side of the business instead of taking it to the banks.
When you say the arrangement was that you would be paid back, what do you mean?
Well, the money would come for the cash that I was giving through to Bosasa, we would be paid back via Bosasa, via EFT.
Was there any other benefit that you would receive?
No.
Was there any commission?
There would be commission. Obviously, instead of us paying the 1.5 or 1.8% to the banks, that would be a start. But I wasn't included in the negotiations with Bosasa on what percentage would be paid for us taking the cash to them.
It's important that the questions that I ask are clear and that the answer is equally accurate and clear.
Sure.
Do you know whether any commission was payable for the transaction of handing cash to Bosasa?
Yes, there was, but what amount, I'm not sure.
Okay. What was the relationship between, you say in your statement, Greg, but I presume you mean his business, and Bosasa at the time? Did they have a business relationship other than this cash?
Yes, as far as I know, yes. Greg Lake and Allen's company, Equal Trade 4, was a supplier of foodstuff to Bosasa.
And you know for what purpose these foodstuffs were provided?
I would say, knowing the industry that I come from and working for Greg, it would be food products that were delivered to the contracts that Bosasa had, which was negotiated with Greg, being prisons, being the mining industry.
Right. You do say in your statement, as you have just told the Chair, that Bosasa had apparently agreed to pay you a percentage of the total amount of cash delivered as a commission, which was negotiated with Greg, but you were unaware of the percentage and you weren't part of those discussions or arrangements.
That's correct.
Were you given any detail in regard to the delivery? For example, the person to whom delivery was to be made?
Yes, I was told there was a person that once I had enough cash to take through, I had to contact the person, which unfortunately I've forgotten what his name is, but I would contact this person and let him know that I have sufficient funds, and then I would make arrangement with him to meet him at a certain time at Bosasa's head office.
Right. This person to whom you were told to make the deliveries, does his image appear on a video which we're about to show the Chair?
Yes.
In paragraph 12, if you would look at it please, you describe to the Commission how the scheme worked and how your instructions to deliver cash to the Bosasa head office in Krugersdorp was carried out. Would you tell the Chair, please, of that information?
I hope I'm getting it correct, Chair. I would notify either Greg Lake and Allen or notify the person that I was dealing with at Bosasa that I had a certain amount, and it normally was pretty much a large amount of money because that's what the business entailed. I would notify them that I have the cash available, and I would make arrangements for what time and where I would meet him. Sometimes it would be at Bosasa. On a few occasions, it was outside Bosasa because it was over a weekend or something like that. And I'd make the arrangements, and I would either the way I would receive the money from my clients would be the way that I would deliver the money to the person that I was dealing with at Bosasa. And every time I had enough money, I would make contact.
What amounts are we talking about, more or less?
Like I said earlier, is that it would vary, and it's such a long time ago. I can't exactly
Yes.
remember how much, but
Yes.
for me, I didn't really want to sit with a lot of money in cash with myself. So as soon as I pretty much got to a figure of anywhere, I would say maybe 500,000 rand, I would contact him and make arrangement for me to meet him and take the money across to him.
So would you be able to say maybe that although it's a long time ago, you know that it would never have been less than 100,000 rand
Yes.
at any point of time?
Yes.
Are you able to give a much closer estimate of what the lowest amount may have been or
I
could
would
have been?
most probably saying maybe 200,000.
Okay, but normally it would be above that.
Yes, normally.
And what's the highest amount you can remember that you might have had at any one stage?
I might have, if I remember correctly, maybe 800 or a million rand.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Are you able to estimate in total how much money over the period of time you were involved in this arrangement you would have delivered to Bosasa?
I wish I could, but I really can't.
Right, going back to the physical arrangements involved in your execution of this arrangement, Mr. Lawrence, when you received money, what did you do with the money, and how did you deliver it, and how was the money packed?
I would wait until I obviously had a sufficient amount of money gathered by my clients, and I would then make contact, and the money would come either in boxes or plastic bags, depending which client it was and how I received it from them. And pretty much exactly the way I received it from my clients, I would take through to Bosasa. But like I said, it would be, I would pretty much have a large amount before I...
How was a record kept of these deliveries and their amounts in particular?
Well, there was no record kept by me. I'm quite sure that the record was kept by Greg Lake and Allen and Bosasa. I would never know. At times there would be a little bit of money short that I delivered, but it was a few hundred rands that was short.
At the time the money was received by you, and then in particular at the time you delivered it, did you see any documentation such as orders, invoices?
Eventually, after a while, after it actually came to an end, I got documentation, which I can only say that was sent to me by error.
Right. We'll come to that in a moment, and you've annexed the documentation that you received. But up until then, did you see was there any documentation that accompanied these deliveries?
No.
Right. For how long did this practice last?
I really can't remember how long it lasted for.
Was it weeks, months, years?
I would say months it carried on for. I really can't remember for how long it carried on for.
Were there difficulties experienced in execution of the arrangement and its outcome for Mr. Lake and Allen's company?
Sorry,
Well, did Mr. Lake and Allen start telling you that the arrangement and its fruits for his company were changing?
Yes, there was. He had said to me that Bosasa eventually said that they didn't need any more cash, and that this cash arrangement, that deal that we had on the table with them, was coming to an end.
Was it a profitable arrangement for your company,
Well, just
the
by,
company for whom you worked?
just by saving the 1.5% instead of delivering the money to the bank, as I said earlier, it was quite a large amount of money that we paid to the banks for delivering cash to the banks. So just on that alone was a saving to me.
Yes. But in addition, you've told the chair that you received a commission.
Yes, it would be through BASASA
Yes.
that we would receive. What the amount was, or what the negotiated amount was, I don't know. I wasn't part and parcel of it.
Did you ask yourself any questions about what you were doing?
Yeah, I did, because, like I said, you asked me a question earlier, my feelings towards Angela, and I just know that the amount of money that was delivered to them, they're not a bank. There must have been something or some underhanded business that was going on.
Did you know anything at the time, or were you?
I had suspicions
What were your suspicions?
that they were using it for something that was underhanded. No one would want that amount of money on a regular basis, the amount that I was giving. No one would want to just use it for their personal use. So, and the rumor about BASASA in the industry was that they bribed.
And despite this knowledge, you continued with this practice and this
Yeah.
arrangement.
Yes.
So it will become apparent from the evidence that you're about to lead now that at a stage you started to video record the delivery of cash to BASASA.
Yes.
Why did you do that?
If you ask me why didn't I do it right from the beginning or right until the end, I can't remember when I filmed it. I just did it because I thought that this was wrong, number one, what I was doing, and I just did it to maybe protect myself, or if there was going to be an outcome out of it, or something. For what reason specifically, I don't know why I did it.
Perhaps
but I
the
did
reason is less relevant than the fact that you actually did record
Yes.
these visits, or some of these visits, to the BASASA head office and the delivery of cash there.
Yeah.
How did you record these incidents?
I recorded them on my phone.
Chair, once again, that term crops up, metadata. There will be evidence in relation to both the location and the dates on which these films were recorded. But for the present, we're going to ask our technician to play the video recordings. Before we do so, however, from the recordings you know that a number of still shots were taken.
Yes.
These aren't individual photographs, but still shots taken from the video recording.
Yes.
Would you look at Annexure A, please? On page 10 of your affidavit.
Yeah.
What is this document?
That's photos that I took of the cash that was delivered to BASASA.
The counter notes on
Yep.
top of at least 3 of those bundles.
Yeah.
Apparent, if you look carefully, that counter notes were on top of all the bundles. What were those?
I would suppose that's the way I received them from my clients, and obviously marked to say how much and where the money had come from.
Yes. And if you look at Annexure B,
Yeah.
on page 11, is that a close-up of one of those counter notes?
Yes.
And one will see a date there, 5 March, but the year is obscured.
Yeah.
Do you know more or less the year in which this incident occurred?
I think it
or
was
this photograph was taken, rather.
I think it was 2013.
And then on page 12, Annexure C, what is that?
That's one of the boxes that I would receive the cash in, closed.
Right. And is the box here being opened?
Yes.
Annexure D on page 13.
That's the box being opened.
Is it the same box we saw in Annexure C,
I
or
think
is
so,
it a different
Chair.
one?
I think so, Chair.
It's the same.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
If you look carefully at the side of the box, you'll see yellow tape, blue tape,
Yeah.
and a cross. Those are the same on pages 12 and 13.
Yes.
Appears to be the same box.
Yeah.
Who's the person opening the box?
It's the person that came with me in the vehicle, Jason.
Right. And why did you have a person with you in the vehicle?
Well, number one was driving around with so much cash in my car, pretty much for protection.
And then on page 14, once again, is this the same box? Can you recall?
Yes, I think it is.
Right. And what do you see in the box?
100 Rand notes.
That's Annexure E
Yeah.
on page 14 of the bundle.
Yeah.
And a similar photograph or still shot of the video appears on page 15 as Annexure F.
Yes.
We needn't go to Annexure G. That seems simply to be another shot of the same box on page 16. Page 17, what do we see on this page, Annexure H?
And more 100 Rand notes in bundles.
In a box.
In a box, yeah.
And the same is visible on page 18, Annexure J, and page 19, Annexure K,
Yeah.
where one sees 2 boxes of cash.
Yeah.
On page 20, Annexure L, what does that show?
That's more cash received, but just in a plastic bag.
And Annexure M,
Same thing.
page 21, Annexure M, you say that those are plastic bags containing cash. Can you recall that?
Yes.
And then on page 22, Annexure N, appears to be bundles of what appear to be 200 Rand notes.
Yep.
Are these still pictures part of the videos that we're going to show?
Yeah, it will be, yes.
And apart from the pictures, do you have an independent recollection of these images?
Yeah.
Are we ready to show? Right. Exhibit U21 on page 5 of your affidavit is referred to in paragraph 17.14. For the record now, Chair, this will be exhibit T9 1.
You said I must first go to paragraph 17.
17.14, please. The exhibit that is now to be shown won't be U21, it'll be T91. Page 5 of the affidavit, Chair.
Or paragraph 17.14.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, so what did you say about the exhibit?
It's marked here as exhibit U21. We have, under your direction, Chair,
Oh,
changed
okay.
bundle U to bundle T9.
Oh, okay. That's now So this will be now be T9.
T9, 1. T9.1.
9.1. And then the rest will follow.
The rest will follow, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
And then I don't have to
Yes.
mention each one. But
Yes.
I'll try and do it. Anyway. It's not a long video clip. What I suggest we do is play the whole video clip. If there's any point at which there is evidence of the presence of a Basasa employee and a container being handed over, you can ask our technician to stop the video at that stage. But we will be going to still images in any event arising out of this particular video. So may we play the video from beginning to end. I must forewarn, Chair, it's not as clear as other videos, but there are certain scenes or images on the video that corroborate the witness's evidence.
Thank you.
So without any comment, can we play this? Stop there. That image, please tell the Chair about that, please.
That is an image once we received our bag back that we'd put money into. We'd received it back and we were about to leave. So the money had been
Who's the
given.
person on the left-hand side carrying the bag or container?
That's the person that came with me pretty much for protection, carrying so much cash.
Your security person.
Yeah, well, yeah.
The person on the right,
Is the person that we used to give the cash to.
so on this occasion, on more than one occasion.
No, on more than one occasion.
Do you recall this particular delivery?
Yes, I do. It was a
What
Saturday.
stands out for you? When did it occur and what stands out for you?
I know it was a Saturday morning because the person that we were giving the cash had just been for a cycle. And I remember the Saturday morning.
And that car on the right, we'll see a clearer image of it in due course. Whose car is that?
I think it's his. He got into it.
So what would be the process? Would you have all the time a bag there in which you put the money, which you would use to deliver the money, and you would take the bag back? Or was the position that sometimes that's what you would do, but sometimes you would deliver the money in bags, in boxes or bags that you did not need to take back?
Chair, on this specific occasion, this was from one of the clients that I used to get money from, and this is the way this specific client would give me the money. He would give it to me in that bag. There, on other occasions, it would be plastic bags, and other occasions it would be
Yes.
boxes.
Yes. And when you had delivered the money, you would need to bring the bag back.
Yeah,
Yes. But would you pass it on to the client or not really?
I would take the bag back so that I could give it to my client so that he could fill it up again and give it back to me. Then it was
Okay.
pretty much that's the way it would work with this specific
Okay.
client and that specific bag.
Okay. But did you say that there were also deliveries which were not, where the money was not put in bags that you had to take back? Maybe the money was in boxes.
No, it was in boxes and in bags, but
Yes.
I would just take it like that and I would hand it over to the gentleman at Bosasa.
If it was in a box.
Yes.
Yes, you didn't have to take
Exactly
that back.
exactly the way I got it is how I
Yes.
handed over.
Yes. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Where is this incident occurring?
At Bosasa head office.
Continue, please. Stop.
Thank you, and sorry for wasting time. This chair is silent. This chair is silent.
Stop there, please. Who is that person?
I cannot recall his name, but it was the person that I handed over the cash to on every occasion.
Is this the person that you would contact
Yes.
in order to arrange a delivery?
Yes.
And the person to whom you gave cash on each occasion?
Yes.
And you understood, did you, that he was employed by whom?
Bosasa.
So, throughout the period during which you were engaged in these transactions, is this the only person at Bosasa that you dealt with?
Only person ever.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
We've asked you questions in this line before, and perhaps you could try and recollect over the short adjournment. But on how many occasions would you have delivered money in this fashion?
If I could remember, I would tell you, but I really cannot remember
Could you
that far.
estimate? Is it once, twice, 10 times, 50 times?
10, 20 times.
And that would be over what period, if you remember?
Yeah, that's the
You
problem.
can't remember. Yes.
I'm struggling to remember. It was for a
Yes.
period of time, and how long it lasted for,
Yeah.
Chair, I really can't remember.
But just in terms of ballparks, could it have been within 1 year?
Oh yes, definitely. I
Oh,
think.
okay, not over a number of years.
No, not numbers.
Yes,
number of
maybe
years.
over
Maybe a little. I can't.
a little bit into the second year or something.
It could have, but it also maybe less.
Yes, yes,
but I'm
okay.
not 100% sure.
Yes, no, but at least that gives some idea. It's not something that happened over 5 years.
No,
and so on. Yeah.
definitely not.
Okay, all right. And this might be difficult, but if you are able to help, you must please do so.
Sure.
Do you have an estimate of about how much in total you had delivered, how much cash you had delivered to Bosasa when you finished these transactions at the end of the period during which you were involved?
As I said, my transactions, Chair, that when I would sell a load, it would be anywhere between 1.1 and 2.5 million. And so I would say it was quite a few million rand that was delivered to Bosasa, but the exact amount I cannot recall.
No, thank you, thank you.
If one goes to page 59, one sees a transcription marked Exhibit U2.2. That exhibit number appears on page 58, in fact, and that will be Exhibit T9.2, Chair. So on page 58, if we could mark that T9.2, and on page 59 is a transcript of.
Yes.
And the transcript reads on page 59, on line 7, person 1 says, "At least you had a cycle this morning." Does that coincide with your own recollection of the events of that morning?
Yes.
You described to the chair that the person to whom money was handed had cycling shorts on.
Yes.
If one goes back to paragraph 17.16, Exhibit T 9.3 deals with a number of screenshots, still images from the video. You know that from your preparatory work.
Page which?
If you go paragraph 17.16 on page 5.
Okay, yes.
There's reference there to Exhibit U2.3. That should now change to Exhibit T9.3. You see that?
Yeah.
And those, can you confirm that that exhibit, if one goes to page 60, are still shots of the video we've just seen, and which we will perhaps deal with after the short adjournment, Chair.
Okay, we'll have the short tea adjournment and we'll resume at 11:30.
Okay, thank you.
We adjourn.